Hey guys, what is going on? It is, as you may have guessed at this point, Brook, or the Undead DM as you may know me. And in this episode, it's not really a response, as I have stated many times before. It's not a response, it's more like a follow-up to a few videos I've made of mine, as well as a video that Cybrock has released earlier today. About ability variation, and I'd just like to give my thoughts on it. So, Cyborg explained that in his video, link in the description, go ahead and check it out. In his video, he explained that 4th edition had done something that he liked to call a variation of a baseline ability. Where a class or a group of classes will get a feature, and the feature baseline works the same for every class. And the example that he gave is that if every spellcaster that had access to Spirit Guardians just got the spell Spirit Guardians as a baseline feature, and all it did was deal damage, and then each class and subclass, in 5th edition's case, got a unique effect with Spirit Guardians when being used, that it would be more interesting. And the reason he said that 4th edition kind of dabbled in this is that all of the leaders, in particular, each had an ability that a lot of people kind of point at, and they go, that's uncreative. All the classes are the same because of this reason. And it's because all of the leaders have a word style power. And all the word style powers, they all heal a D plus a D6 twice per encounter. And obviously that was for game balance purposes. But that is a baseline ability that has variation based on which class is using it. Because the cleric gets more healing with their word power, but the bard, I think, can shift a person. The warlord gives a bonus of some kind. Basically, each of their word powers has a unique effect based on which class is using the power. And he explained that if 5th edition was designed in a similar way, where classes gain baseline features, even if they were shared between classes, like the extra attack feature, if those were shared amongst each class that had access to them, and then each of them got an effect based on that baseline feature that was unique to them, it would have been a lot better of a design. And he said he would even have accepted that if they got it, and it would be really cool if things like the cleric, where if they got Spirit Guardians it just dealt damage, but then for each subclass they got a unique effect based on what subclass they were picking for their Spirit Guardians. I wholeheartedly agree with this. I think that variation in abilities is very nice, and it should be a practice that as a home brewer you should take into consideration. Especially if you're going to base anything off of 4th edition, trying to convert it into 5th edition, homebrewing 5th edition in general. I think variation in baseline is not necessarily required, but it is very helpful. Because it can make similar classes, like the fighter and the barbarian, seem unique between each other. So that's personally what I recommend. But he did go on to explain that in certain situations, it can be a bad thing. So, he explained that in 4th edition, they had Warlock packs. And he gave an example that if the Warlock got an ability, and he got an additional effect based on which pact he chose, but the pact that he chose gave such a good feature, it was that if he got a power and the effect that he had on the baseline feature was okay, But then the power that he got, that power specifically, only had an effect for one pact and not a unique effect for every pact. It would kind of feel like you're kind of being forced into taking that feature or that power, because every other power at a similar level has a unique thing for every other pact. And I do agree with that. So here's what I would recommend. I would recommend that if you're going to make a 5th edition rework, so to speak, I would recommend going with a more complicated type of system by adding more options, but then making those options more dynamic by not restricting the use of certain effects behind a certain choice. So an example would be in my monk rework that I'm currently working on. The monk has access to baseline powers, and the powers that they get access to are based on level. So all you have to do is reach the level in the monk in order to get those powers and choose from them. And there's no restriction on anything else. It's just you have the activation cost, the chakra cost, and the effect. And then you can spend more chakra to use a more powerful effect. But there's no limitation. And since my monk is based on yin and yang chakra, if you expend yin or yang, you may get a different effect based on the power that you're using. So if you use yin, it's typically more of a defensive or healing a healing bonus, and with the yang, it's more of the offensive bonus. So you may gain a bonus to damage, you may gain a bonus to hit, an additional attack, what have you. So I'm not restricting baseline powers to a unique choice that the monk has. Even the powers that they get at level 5 and level 20 that are supposed to be quote-unquote unique to the one of the 5 fighting styles that they can get at level 5 instead of extra attack, they get to pick a unique style based on one of the Chinese martial arts, like the tiger, the mantis, the snake. They each have their own little ability that they can choose from based on those fighting styles, but you are not required to have those fighting styles in order to use them. They just have an effect that kind of synergizes somewhat or fits the theme of the fighting style. So for example, at 5th level, you can pick the Agile Monkey, which gives you advantage on initiative checks and allows you to move up to half your speed when you roll for initiative. And their power that they can get immediately afterwards is called the Giant Ape's Grip, and it basically makes them grapple better. And why? Well, because the monkey and the ape in the player's handbook and some other monster-style stat blocks are really good at grappling creatures. And then later, they get even better at it. So, you're not required to have the monkey fighting style. You just can pick it even if you don't use it. So it's very customizable, but if you want to, you can make those choices. It's not required. However, where I do deviate from this is that all the subclasses for the monk have their own options that only they can pick. Only they can have those, and if they want to, they can, but they don't have to. So, that's my little tangent for today. Make your homebrew more complicated than you think it should. Because the more complicated it is, the more mechanics that you put, the more options you give to a player, the more agency they have over their character. The more they feel in control of what their character can and can't do. And it diversifies martial characters specifically into being more than just hitting people. But yeah, just give them more options. Give everyone options. That's about it. And don't restrict those options.